Hey guys, Jordan here. In this video, I'm going to be answering a real estate photography question. And that is what settings should I use for real estate photography? Now I'm just going to talk broad here, just some settings that you need to consider as a real estate photographer, regardless of what manufacturer. So I'm not going to dig into exactly like what our Sony settings are or whatever, but you'll want a camera that can shoot bracketed images, because with real estate photography, a lot of times you're shooting a zero exposure value, which is a good exposure for the interior of the house, but you're not getting too much details outside of the window. So then we also shoot a -3 exposure, which gives us the detail for the windows, and then a +3 exposure, which gives us a lot of detail in the shadows. Now, some cameras, I think when I started, I will say I just grabbed a camera. I think it was a Canon Rebel camera, and you couldn't really save your bracketed settings. So for every time we turned off the camera and turned it back on, we had to manually set the brackets, which was super annoying. And I don't like inefficiencies like that. So that camera did not last long. I think you can get around with it. I think there's like a magic lantern. Actually, that's what it was. It was called Magic Lantern. You could put on those cameras to kind of give you some additional features, but I quickly moved from that Rebel camera to the Canon 70D, which has a custom mode and allows you to save your settings to where I can just turn it on and it's ready to go. I don't have to adjust anything. And I think that's really important with real estate photography, because I think as you have to do things and you're out and about, you know, maybe you're busy, you're focused on composition or, you know, the staging or whatever you're focused on, you don't want to have to be double checking your camera settings every single time. And I think that's really important with real estate photography, especially when you're getting started, because composition is a thing that I've seen students and new photographers to real estate struggle with, you know, getting the good composition. So we set our camera settings up very simple to where you don't have to change them as you're moving room to room. And I think that's very important, because at the end of the day, you just want to deliver great, nicely composed photos to your customers. Now you can add a whole bunch of variables to your shooting style and your settings. You can manually adjust this or that, but I don't recommend it for beginners. As you feel confident in your shooting methods and whatnot, feel free to add variables that you want to, if you feel like it increases your quality or whatnot. But from my experience, it's best just to keep it pretty simple. So by default, our default aperture setting is f8. Our default ISO is set to a range of 100 to 400. So I don't like to go beyond 400 typically, or lower than 100. And having the auto ISO set to that range, you know, when you're outside and it's really bright, the camera's always shooting at 100. If you're in a darker room inside of a house, the camera's selecting 400. I'm not having to manually adjust it. So those are just a couple of settings, but you want one with bracketed settings. And obviously, you know, you gotta also know the quality of your lens and how it performs at different aperture settings. F8 is typically pretty safe for most lenses. And then the ISO setting. So, and then shutter speed is also important as well. You know, when you get into some really low light scenarios, you don't want super long exposure times, because if you accidentally bump or there's moving things in it, it's going to make it all blurry and mess up the shot. So anyways, that's going to do it. If you're just starting with real estate photography, you can check out our Jumpstart guide. The link is in the description. That'll help you to get started. It's a guide I wish I had when I first got started in real estate photography. Anyways, that's going to do it for this one. Reach out if you have any questions. We'll see you guys on the next one.